hello again, dear ones. Rev Briz with you here.
Rev Z on this end.
And this is New Thought Today, a religious science perspective approaching an integral perspective of new thought. It's a lot of words, we know. But it has to be that way. And we're going to explain today exactly why that is so. We're going to explain today a bit about who we are and what's going on here and why we believe you're going to want to keep checking back again and again and again and again, because we're going to be here every Tuesday on the New Thought Media Network, every Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. We're going to get together, Rev Z and I, we're going to get together and we are going to look at, in many ways, the philosophy, the guiding principles, if you will, of the science of mind, New Thought, religious science, Centers for Spiritual Living. There's so many organizations, so many concepts, so many ideas, and they've been all out there in the world floating around for decades and decades. Our attempt is going to be to bring that into a discussion and an experience and a deeper dialogue around, hey, is this new stuff thought even worth paying attention to? Is it relevant, right? Right, Z?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the interesting part because as we were talking the other day, we look around in different arenas now, Hollywood, some politics, in leadership teachings and team building teachings. A lot of the foundation of some of those new approaches in these areas are based in new thought and come directly out of some of the religious science teachings. And so it's interesting to see how it gets all integrated. And that's the purpose of this program, is to see how new thought, specifically religious science, uh, kind of contributed to some of the inspirational self-improvement, leadership training that we're doing today, and that to highlight the idea that it's all based in spirituality.
Yeah, exactly. All right, now before we get too deep into all of this and get too far down the rabbit hole, we do want to make sure that we say thank you to our sponsors, to New Thought Media Network, who is our primary sponsor at this point, and say thank you for making this possible, for bringing together the people and the resources and the software and the opportunity and the bandwidth, as it were, to make all of this possible. So, folks, please do give a shout out to New Thought Media Network. Check out the programming that this mighty ministry is bringing forward. And I promise you, we're going to bring forward a lot more of it in the very near future. So today is a premiere day. This is our very first episode here on the network with New Thought Today, and an opportunity to dig in a bit deeper. We do want to let you know, in the coming weeks, our intention is that this is a 1 hour program. We get a chance to kind of go a little bit deeper into some of these topics than we do on other programs, and we get to bring in some guests.
Yes.
And that's kind of, we're already both kind of chomping at the bit. It's like, ooh, who do we get in here? And who do we want to come talk about this? And who do we want to come talk about that? Because what we know is, and we're going to share with you here in just a moment or two, that Z and I, we've got our expertise. We've got those places where we like to play, where we feel confident and know what we're talking about. And there's areas in this conversation where we're not going to know what we're talking about, where we got to get somebody with a different expertise, with a different perspective, with a different history to come in and share with us as well. So we really want this to be an open dialogue, an open discussion. We're going to keep the chat box open. If you drop comments in the chat box, we'll do our best to answer them and respond to them as we go throughout the program. If you have ideas and things you'd like to talk about, if you have some concepts or guests you think we ought to know about, I'm going to put there we go. I'm going to put a email address up there on the screen for you, info@ntmedia.org. Let us know. Let us know who you'd like to hear on this program, what you'd like to experience, what guests we should have, all that kind of stuff. Because again, our intention is really to look at the statements, the things like the global vision and how that compares to the global heart vision, how that compares to what's known as the Declaration of Principles in Science of Mind, how the various pieces and parts of this puzzle called New Thought have come together.
Yep.
And one of the things we want, we call this a religious science perspective. Z and I are both ordained religious science ministers. We've both been doing this a while. We're going to get into our bios here in a second or two. But we've been doing this a while. And along the way, what we realize is the integral theory, Ken Wilber's integral theory, plays a huge part in being able to understand the evolutionary path that we're on, the evolutionary cycle that we're on. And all of that combined brings us into a new perspective regarding the relevancy of New Thought and the practical applications, how we can use this to create the life we truly desire. Z, any opening thoughts that I missed there?
Oh no, man! I think you covered it all. I think one thing I would just highlight again that you brought up was this whole idea of the religious science perspective, because I think it's a unique perspective in that one of the foundational pieces of it is to look at spirituality and science and how they go together, and how they support one another, and how they're basically a yin and yang, or the other side of a coin of each other. I think that's very key because we're familiar with that science model. And so when we move it into a spiritual perspective, I think it will help everybody get some real clear understanding rather, and they'll have a station to start from when they begin to explore new ideas. And then I think the other thing that's going to be key is the whole idea, at least from a religious science perspective, is talking about what we believe, because I think there's a lot of misconception about new thought in general and religious science specifically about what we believe and what we practice and so forth and so on. And so I think this program is going to open up the opportunity for people to get real clear information about what it is that we do believe, what our goals and visions are, and how they can use it to help better their lives and their environments and so forth and so on. So it's going to be very, very exciting to get down this road.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. It's as you were sharing there, it came into my mind that we're not quite at an intersection. And there's a famous line in New Thought in the doc from Dr. Holmes, right? We look forward to the day when science and spirituality walk hand in hand.
Yeah.
That intersection between science. Well, the truth is we're long past the intersection, folks. We're at like a 20-lane highway cloverleaf.
Yeah.
We've got four major highways all coming together and all going out in different directions and this, that. And that is, in many ways, the reality of where this new thought philosophy is at the moment. We came from humble, simple, fairly, in my opinion, humble and simple backgrounds of philosophy within the lineage of philosophy. Religion and philosophy combined to bring us some, and over years, decades, uh, this one thing, if you will, science of mind, has risen up to provide a perspective of all of New Thought.
Hmm.
So we are we are not we have a view of the map, but we can't see the whole map.
Right.
And what I trust we're going to do here on this program is help to reveal that territory, help to reveal the map of what's available, what's going on, and what's, again, we're going to come back to this a lot. What is going to support you in creating the life you truly desire?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the key part.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, hey, I think it's probably about that point where we get into just sharing a little bit with each other and the audience, our background. Uh, you know, we uh, we didn't just fall into this, folks. And between the two of us, we've got all kinds of crazy and wild experiences. We're not here to share all those stories, but what we do want to give you is kind of a snapshot of
Yep.
why we feel qualified to be able to facilitate and guide this discussion. So, Z, if you don't mind, why don't you jump in a minute and share with everybody a bit about yourself?
Sure, sure. Oh, glad to. Well, first and foremost is you're looking at an original Southern boy. I was born and raised in Florida, up in the Panhandle, and so uh, that was a unique experience unto itself. Grew up and raised Christian, and somewhere along the line, I felt that I was not being served or fed as much as I wanted to. I was one of those precocious kids that had tons of questions and I got very few answers. And so I started out on a journey of introspection and research, if you will, and eventually converted to Islam. Practiced Islam as an imam for a long time. uh, I've done some very good study with some great leaders in the Afrocentric movement and understanding that whole piece, ancient Egypt and the whole foundation of Afrocentricity. And then at a later point in life, I got interested in religious science just by chance, and it came across to me. My interpretation, if you will, was that Ernest Holmes' original idea was religious science was supposed to be an educational institute that was supposed to go out and do research and provide insight into the unity of all religions. And so when I first went there, I kind of looked at it from an Islamic perspective as a Sufi order, if you will. It was another order that didn't take away from anything I had learned as a Muslim, but it highlighted and gave some other tools and approaches to how we interpret this thing called life. And so from that perspective, I started taking classes originally with no intentions of being a religious science minister. I was just enthralled with all the information and the interaction. And so I just kept going until one day it was like, oh, I'm done. What now? And so I I said, okay, I like this approach. And so now, if you will, I call myself an Islamic Afrocentric religious science minister because I have some unique experiences with some great teachers to kind of explore and experiment and provide information on how those three things, which someone may not think come together, show how they come together, and they all built on this one spiritual foundation of oneness and the creativity of the divine spirit that is in incarnated within each and every one of us, and how we display it is, you know, a plan between you and the divine. And so that's how I get here. And I guess I've been ordained now for, I finished school maybe 10 years ago, been ordained for maybe the last 7. Um, and so here I am, and I'm ready to dig into this because it's my passion, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. And I want you to know I am so grateful to be sharing this journey with you. Folks, for those that may not be aware, Rev Z and I do a show on Friday mornings as well. It's a half-hour discussion around, the topical nature of today, the news of today, if you will, what's going on in the world. But this is something different. This is something special because we do get to bring more of who, not only who we are, but that depth of experience that we both have. And I remember, I love how you say, and then one day you were there. It's like, yeah, I was there for a lot of those days, and it never felt quite like that. Rev Z and I met in ministerial school. Actually, he was a little bit farther, a year or so ahead of me in classes. And, you know, someday perhaps you'll hear the story of our very first evening, the very first meeting. We'll save that story for another time.
Yes.
Uh, but that's all to say that what I recognize here and what I'm excited for is, yes, to share this exploration, to share this really deep dive with you and our audience, because I come from a kind of varied background and almost in many ways, uh, we could almost say the opposite of yours.
Mm.
East Coast boy, born and raised in New Jersey. Nothing in the South ever moved fast enough for me. And I always moved way too fast for anybody that came from the South. So I and didn't have any real solid background in religion or spirituality of any sort. They predominantly led my life without that aspect. For many, many, many years, God for me stood for the great outdoors. And following high school, got involved with a very large national dance troupe called the Grateful Dead, and danced around the country with them for a handful of years, and then some others, Fish and Widespread. And you live life and you gain experience, and that's what I did. That's what I was led to believe. And through those experiences, I started to recognize, hey, there's some patterns emerging here. There's some things that don't go away. 9 out of 10 times when something goes wrong, it's all about me. It was really my fault, and things you don't want to, I didn't want to admit. However, life takes you into unique areas, and I got involved in the winter snow sports and winter snow sport instruction, and again, loving life. However, there was always something missing, and I didn't know what that was. Interestingly enough, the science of mind, New Thought, religious science, all kind of shows up in my life right about the same time that I found the most amazing woman in the world. And we've now been married for 17, 18 years. I might get in trouble for not knowing that exactly, but and a couple of great, wonderful children as well. And she's a full-on partner in everything that we do together, this ministry and the network. And what I found was nothing of all that I've studied, of all the experiences, all the things I bumped into, Buddhism, Taoism, nothing seemed to bring it all together like the teachings of Ernest Holmes,
Yes.
like the teachings of the science of mind. And there was an immediate sense of, wow, I have found my way home. And my home has found me. And I didn't even know that I was lost. I didn't know there was anything missing until this philosophy finds me and really shows me that there's a new way home. There's a new idea. So we want to again. Let's finish that thought. So Z graduates ministerial school right before I do. I come through and finish ministerial school right at about that point that the two organizations known as the United Centers for Spiritual Living and International Centers for Spiritual Living came together as one organization. And in the midst of all of that, I become licensed in with CSL as a minister. Took me a little bit longer to get to my ordination. Finished that up a few years back now, and what I know and what we want to share with you is the information and the teachings we're going to share over these coming weeks is invaluable to creating the life you truly desire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's right
yeah.
there
And
for you.
that I can't harp on that enough, because having had the experience of being through several religious systems and several philosophical movements, and when I look back over all of those, they all contribute, and the goal of each one of them was to do exactly that: make opportunities for everybody to live the life that they desire, and to understand the connectivity of everything on the planet in that relationship. And so that's one of my key motivations is from the psychology. Well, how do we self-actualize? How do we find ourselves in the moment where we are exactly where we want to be?
Yeah, I agree. It's not an easy question, folks. We're going to do a quick shout out because I recognize that our friend Kat Kim is here with us today saying, I'm on the fence with ministerial school. And I want you to know, Kat, we hear that. I can understand that perspective. And let's get together and have a conversation about that because I want to bring Kat on this program at some point.
Yes.
I believe you will have a unique and a valuable perspective on what we're here to talk about. which is really the bedrock of this philosophy. And you're going to hear us throw some names around and throw some terms around as we go. There's a long history through this movement that is helping us to understand, well, what do we really believe? And that's really where it started, with a document that Ernest Holmes wrote called What We Believe. It was an answer to a letter. A friend wrote a letter and said, well, what do you folks really believe? And he just wrote down some stuff. Now I know there was some thought to it, but he wrote this down and sent it off, and it became a holy document, if you will, in the science of mind. But along the years and along over time, our thinking and our perspective of that grew and changed and shifted. You will hear us use terms um, like the 10 core concepts, which was a way of describing and codifying what we believe. There is an older document out there known as the Global Heart Vision. And the Global Heart Vision emerged and morphed and shifted into what we now call the Global Vision. And we're going to talk about that in one of our later segments. In a later segment here today, we're going to introduce those principles in that document to you, because that's exactly what we're here to do.
Yes.
We're here to explore that global vision and determine what it is that we're here to, again, is this relevant? Is this stuff really here for us? So, uh, okay, what do we need to do here, Z?
Oh well, I think we should start just by looking at these global concepts. Um, or if we, or what would be even better if we got a sponsorship, because we definitely want to thank New Thought Media Network for allowing us to have this platform to share and to explore these ideas. And as you said, I think I'm so excited about the opportunity to have interaction with the audience, with them asking questions, to bring on guests, and to begin to look at how we, as we say in our movement, how do we begin to create a world that works for everyone
Yes.
and get everybody on board, and all of that.
Yep. Well, why don't I talk just a moment about the New Thought Media Network? I'll give you a chance to take a breath there. We want you to know, folks, that New Thought Media Network is a divine ideal. It's a vision that's been emerging for over a year now. We are a 501c3 nonprofit and affiliated with the Centers for Spiritual Living. So what that means is your contributions are fully tax deductible. Yes, we've got a PayPal address. It's right there on the screen. And yes, there are live links in the description of this video. There's also a link there to sign up for our newsletter and find out what we're doing. The intention is that we're bringing forth a vast array of new thought programming, of music, media, and entertainment. And we're bringing forth all of those in various ways. And that's what a part of this program is. This program is sponsored by the New Thought Media Network. Uh, this ministry is here to communicate these principles in various ways. So we hold concerts, we have panel discussions, we've got a vast library of experiences that we've had together. We do daily practices and weekly practices and all kinds of things. Monday morning, we vision together. Tuesday mornings, we get our journals going together. Wednesday mornings, we talk about we do a meditation together, and the possibilities are endless. So I want to say again, thank you for New Thought Media. Thank you for all the listeners and the viewers that are part of this and that are making donations and contributing your financial good. It goes a long way to making sure that we can keep broadcasting this message out to everyone on the planet. So, all right, let's dive back into this, Z. Yeah, we wanted to share our first thing to dig into really is we want to read through what is considered the global vision.
Yeah.
So now again, to kind of set this up, These are a series of statements that have emerged over time. They've been wordsmithed by a couple of different committees, and but they really, really speak to the uh, I, I, guiding principles of the Centers for Spiritual Living, and that is what many consider to be the premier organization bringing forward the science of mind into the world. There are others, and we'll be talking about those guys and those organizations as we go. But today, we just want to kind of start by reading these into the room. And then in subsequent weeks, we're going to kind of dig into these individually and kind of share a deeper perspective, not only of world events and cultural events, but again with our guests to explore how these are active, valid, and if they're still if they serve, if you enjoy them, if they work for you. So, Z, why don't you kick us off? We'll kind of go back and forth here and read some of these.
Sure. First one is we envision all people, all beings, and all life as an expression of God.
We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action.
We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought, a world where each person discovers his or her own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone.
We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life, a world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience.
We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness.
That one's a mouthful.
Yes.
Further, we envision a world where each and every person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging, a world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement, and justice.
We envision a world in which resources are valued, cared for, and grown, and where there is a generous and continuous sharing of these resources.
We envision a worldwide culture in which forgiveness, whether for errors, injustices, or debts, is the norm.
We envision a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics.
And the final, we envision a world that works for everyone and for all creation. Now, we trust that at least one, if not most of those, have struck a chord with you, have resonated in your heart in some way. And what we believe is these statements, they cast that mighty vision, a vision that may seem unattainable, a vision that may seem fanciful, a vision that people give me grief for on Facebook pretty much every day. Somebody tells me I'm thinking way too big when I share these things. But we want to share them with you, and we want to share an understanding of how are these things really showing up, and what can we do to be part of the change
Yeah.
of activating this vision.
Yeah, because a lot of people hear these statements, and they say, "Oh, well, that's nice pie in the sky kind of stuff," and yeah, that's a good, whatever, woo woo. But in actuality, if you begin to look at them, dissect them a little bit, and as we go through the program, begin to apply the principles that are implied with achieving those goals, you begin to see for yourself that these ideas, these concepts, they work, they're true. And for anyone who's been around the New Thought movement or anything like that, when we talk about these spiritual laws, you always hear, or you may have heard of this reference. No one has ever seen gravity, not at all. But you don't see people saying, "Well, I don't understand," or "I don't believe gravity because I can't see it," and start jumping off, 20 stories buildings, thinking that it's not going to have an effect, or or some results is going to happen as a result of that. So, you know, that's what we're looking at here with this program, is to begin to explore these things and these concepts and these goals and these visions, and look at how they intersect with all other parts of philosophical, ideological, and religious and spiritual systems. But more importantly, how they work together and give us a sound foundation to create this world that works for everybody, where we have resources that are used respectfully, where we can respect differences and still allow all of that to push us higher and higher and higher as humanity.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. How many people out there just said yes?
Yes.
I know you did. Whether you're watching this live or at another time, I know there's something happening if you're watching that is calling you to say, yeah, we can create this ideal. We can, and we have the ability, and this is what the science of mind teaches us, that we can, through the power of our prayer, through the power of our word and inspired action, create the world that works for everyone,
Yeah. Yeah.
support everyone in awakening to their spiritual magnificence.
Yeah. And if we just, the first statement we made is a great place to begin to unravel this, because I think it sets the stage and creates this perspective to work from. And that statement says, we envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God. Now, that pretty much includes everything, seen and unseen, liked or unliked, believed or unbelieved, to be an expression of the divine creative force called God, called Allah, called Vishnu, called a whole lot of things by different cultures based on language and so forth. But we know first and foremost that the label or the name of something does not really fully describe the thing itself. And there's even the concept from a lot of spiritual teachings that says one of the best names we can call this creative source is the thing itself.
Yes.
And
Yes.
once we begin to look at everything on the planet, in the universe, in the cosmos, as being an expression of that one creative mind and force, that sets up this chain reaction, if you will, this platform for respect and love and interconnection and compassion and empathy and all these things that we know and have experienced at points in our life, that creates this environment, this world, this global family that supports and sustains life across all bounds. And that's the first and foremost foundation of new thought, and for sure religious science, that all creation, all things, animate, inanimate, seen, unseen, are an expression of the divine.
Yes. That includes the politician you don't agree with,
Yes.
whoever that might be.
Yes.
Uh, Politics is another show. Uh, and it's part of our lives, right? And everything out there. I love how you put it, Z. Everything. So imagine anything you want. That too is God. Now
Yeah.
go a little bit bigger, go a little bit further. Gray aliens. That too is God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And anything you can imagine is part of this allness, this oneness is all encompassing. And I like to look at it as the power, the presence, and the intelligence.
Yes.
The all of all, the alpha and the omega.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing and the nothing that balances that thing.
Yes. And you know the Tao, and definitely the yin and yang symbol that a lot of people are familiar with, represents this concept, this idea of allness and oneness so well. And this because it you have the two colored sides, the white and the black, and on the white side you got a black dot, and on the black side you got a white dot. And when you look at the symbols themselves, they each move in a circular motion, and they get to a point where they peter out almost, and then they fade into the other side as this big image, and then again it small and creates a round. And the interesting part about that, it shows the movement of life. When we look at the cycle of life, the movement of the planets, the movement of our own stellar lights of the sun and the moon, there is a flow of in and outness that shows that there's a relationship. And that relationship, I would submit, is a symbiotic relationship, right? One cannot exist without the other. We know we see all this light on the moon, but once you get to the science of it, well, we know the sun, the light of the moon is really just a reflection of the sun based on the position to it. Now, that is how we have to begin to look at life and our relationships to each other and the planet, because we live in that same kind of reality, that same cycle, that same symbiotic reflection of each other, so that we can begin to respect each and everything on this planet and in this universe, so that we can continue on this fantastic adventure called life.
Yeah. Respect. To be able to respect that we may not agree, that we may look at life differently, we may have different history, different backgrounds, and truthfully, we all have that. None
Yeah.
of you have lived the life I've lived, and I haven't lived any of the lives you've lived. And yet we're all part of this oneness. Deeply, we are the one life. And we are unique emanations of that life, sprouting up, popping out all over the place. Think about your lawn. If you grow grass, yeah, I think we're still growing grass out there. If you're growing grass, well, you've got one lawn, but it's got hundreds and thousands of sprouts of life, different sizes, different colors, different pieces, different ideas. You and who you are is absolutely vital,
Yeah.
to the demonstration of this great vision, right? And we envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God.
Yeah.
And we envision that all those expressions are aware of that.
And you know, there's a saying that we have in religious science that says there's only one life. That life is God's life, and that life is your life and my life now. And that's the framework that we're working from. We're working from this oneness, this wholeness that expresses itself in many different ways, many different concepts and ideas of climbing the mountain. But the people on the south side of the mountain get a very different experience from the people on the north side of the mountain. And if you're in Colorado, you know exactly what that experience is like. And if I've come up the south side saying, "Oh boy, it's sunny and you know very little snow," and someone's coming up that north side of the mountain and they're saying, "No, it's cold and snowy over here," I have to respect that approach, because I've only come up the south side, but I know there's another side of the mountain. So I begin to have conversations and contrast and compare and experience through someone else's eyes what it's like to be on the north side, until I get a chance to come up the north side. Mm-hmm. And now we can begin to explore. And even if we're up the same side of the mountain, our history, our education, our culture, our awarenesses as a human being allow us and almost forces us to look at different things as we go. So now when we get to the top of the mountain, we have a conversation. What did you see? Oh, I saw that. I didn't see that. Oh, yeah, you missed it. We can go now and begin to get a broader view, a broader understanding, and see the value of how coming together and recognizing that all things express God, to see that we need each other. We have to have each other to really, really, really create, a wonderful world.
Yeah. So really, folks, we're not here to try to sell you on what we know and what we believe and what we have experienced and how we've gotten to this place. If we're here to sell you on anything, it's that you have within you everything necessary to have these revelations yourself, to come to this understanding in your own way, and to recognize that every part of your life, every single part of your life has been perfect,
Yes.
has been absolutely necessary to get you to where you are. Now, what got us to where we are isn't necessarily what's going to get us to the next station. And that's part of the evolutionary fun.
Yeah.
That's part of the evolutionary process that's happening. If everything worked the same way it did when I was 20, oh God. Uh,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. I know better. The world knows better. We've evolved. I've evolved. My relationships, the world around me. And this is where you're going to hear us talk about integral theory and spiral dynamics. And in the notes to this show, I don't have them in there for the live broadcast. We'll make sure they're in there. And if you're listening to this as a podcast later on, then the notes down below we'll have some links to some places where we think you might want to go to check out more resources and learn a bit more
Mhm.
around some of the topics and ideas we're going to be talking about. So again, this is an open dialogue. It's intended to be a discussion. We'll be leaving you video links and article links. One of the things we want to share with you is our dear friend Jim Lockhart. He does a great job of explaining a lot of this. Also, our friend Reverend Mark Gilbert, he does a great job explaining a lot of this as well. And I want to bring an image up on the screen for you real quick. Right, we're looking at conservatively, there are 8 primary different perspectives on life right now. And I know this is a lot of information. I'm not going to try to distill all of this right now. We're going to make sure that that image is in the link so you know how to find it and study it. But we want to be able to look at the experiences and what's going on from these various different perspectives of life.
Yeah.
We believe that's going to help create the bridge to help us see the truth of this, that yes, even those on the other side of the political spectrum are still divine, are still perfect, and they're still part of this oneness. All beings, all life, they're still an expression of God.
Yeah. And an interesting thing there is that one of the terms used in that model is the integralness of these models. It's like gears on your bike and the chain. Those two things are integral to get any motion. If you got a gear on your bike and you pedaling and there's no chain that's an integral part of that, you're not going to get very far. Uh, so and that's what we're trying to show here. That's what we're trying to create, a foundation and a platform for each and every person to begin to explore that integralness and understand why we have differences and why certain people see certain things and certain people don't. And when we can begin to do that, and as the old adage goes, until I can try to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, and then begin to get off my high horse and judge and downplay and belittle and all those things that we do when we think we have the upper hand or we think we got some knowledge somebody else doesn't have, we begin to realize, well, yeah, I may know what I know, but the other guy, the other girl, she knows what she knows, or he knows what he knows. And so the thing about trying to exercise some supremacy of idea is not what this is about. It is
Right.
about the supremacy of one thing and one thing only, and that is the thing itself, God Almighty, and the creativeness and the connectedness of everything that came forth from that great idea of divine unity.
Yeah. Hmm. There's really only one thing going on here, folks. Across the entire planet, beyond this planet, within this universe, beyond this solar system and galaxy, beyond the known universe, into
Yeah,
the unknown. And you'll probably hear us say that quite a bit too, right? We know what we know. We know there's things we don't know, and we know that there's things we don't even know
yeah,
exist. That's why we've all got to be in this together. That's why we've all, if we're really going to be stewards of this great green ball of gas and rock and whatever in the universe, if we're going to be good stewards of taking the philosophy and the consciousness of humanity forward, then we've got to be willing to work together, to turn to those around us and say, I don't know what I don't know. What do you know that I don't know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I'm telling you, if I needed a haircut other than the one I have right now, which is to cut it all off, uh, I'm in trouble, right? I don't have the skills, nor the tools, nor the insight on how to do a haircut other than cut it all off, right? And so when I want to do that, I go to a barber or a stylist, someone who has a perspective, skill, knowledge, experience, and know-how into that thing. And that's what we're hoping to do with this program is to share with you our experiences and bring on others from different perspectives of the new thought, and in some cases the traditional thought, to show how again it's integral. It's again, it's that approach of going up the mountain. Each one of these ideas, philosophy, religions have come up a different side of the mountain, if you will, and they have codified and come up with a perspective that fits or that is analogous to that path that they took. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong. It makes it a part of a whole.
Yeah.
And that's and again, you're going to hear us say over and over again, we're looking at the wholeness of life,
Yes.
the oneness of life, and know that it is all connected. And I know for me, and Reverend Briz knows this, I'm going to be referring, and he is too, because he's a naturalist in that same respect. Nature has given us a perfect book, if you will, to examine and explore and understand this world we live in.
Yes.
And when we can tie in, excuse me, I'm getting excited, and learn from that perspective, it becomes clear. And you open up a doorway, a gateway, a frequency to speak directly to the God mind itself, to confirm things that can't be seen, or to highlight things that you've experienced and couldn't quite understand or explain what they were. You now have a medium to help you do that.
Yes. Hmm. Oh, yes, we are getting excited. And excitable. And, and and really, folks, what you're hearing is why we want you to be involved. Why we want you to say, hey, this is who I'd like to hear from. If you'd like to see somebody on this program, send us an email, info@ntmedia.org. If there's ideas and concepts, and if there's questions you have about this philosophy called science of mind, new thought, religious science, whatever name we give it, let us know,
Mm-hmm.
because we're willing to take that dive down the rabbit hole. We're willing to take those looks, and we're willing to go out there and find the guests that'll help all of us come to a greater understanding of our oneness.
Yes.
And we're going to build from that, because once we get that piece, this is, there's no question, and there's no why this is at the top of the list. We envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God, because everything we're going to talk about from here on in requires that we at least tactily say, yes, I agree with that.
Right.
If if you're having a tough time agreeing with that statement today, then please send us an email. Let's get in touch. Let's talk. Let's have a
Indeed.
conversation. Uh, it's actually, and to this point, I was looking for something online the other day, and I came across and I typed in for my search code uh, disciples of oneness, disciples of oneness, and it's all the Bible. The only thing I can find is the Bible and references to Jesus in the Bible. And when you dig in, even there, really what we're talking about is oneness.
Yeah.
Like Z said, call it God, call it Buddha, call it Brahma or Allah or Vishnu or Kuan Yin or Source Energy or Divine Mother or Gaia or Love or George.
Yeah.
I heard a minister in a conversation recently refer to the divine as George. Cool, right on, right? Take this one, and here's our challenge for the week, right? Take this one piece, just this one piece, and no matter what shows up, no matter what meme gets in your face, no matter what internet troll decides to try to push your buttons, no matter what goes on in the world, come back to that. We envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God, of the
Right.
divine, of the one.
Yeah. And you know, uh, one thing I want to make clear that you just highlighted in my mind, and you said it earlier, I just want to highlight it again, is that we are not here to convince you of anything. We're not trying to convert you. We're not trying to argue with you. We're not trying to do any of that. We're here standing on a foundation, again, on the oneness of God and the oneness creation, and to provide perspectives, knowledge, viewpoints that support that idea that we think is helpful for everyone. And then from there, we get to this thing where we know you'll hear us make all these disclaimers about, God is this, that, and the other call, because we know when you go to the restaurant and you pick up a menu and you see a good meal, you don't start eating the menu because the label of that thing is not the thing itself. Right, you actually order the shrimp scampi or the quarter house steak. You don't eat, oh, I like that, and start eating that menu. That's just a label of the thing itself. What you really want to experience is the thing itself. And that's what we're here to try to set up a platform for you to begin to have the intellectual approach, the research skills, the tools to have that direct experience with the divine. And then, you know, I don't need to try to describe to you what a mango tastes like. Once you taste the mango, you know exactly what the mango tastes like.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're it's going to be a fun journey, folks. That I know. I'm so excited, looking forward to it. We could keep going and going and going. However, we do have a time frame here, and we do want to make sure that we honor your time. And so we're going to say thank you. Thank you again for being a part of this, for being here, for tuning into New Thought Media Network. Thank you for your financial gifts, your tithes, your offerings, your tips, because every dollar goes to help keeping this programming on the air, to put this message into the world. Because together we are changing lives. Together we are creating something never before seen that is going to raise the vibration of the planet, and that is providing the music, the media, and the entertainment that's going to raise the vibration. And together we are creating a world that works for everyone. So thank you again to New Thought Media Network and everyone over there that's making this happen and makes it easy for us to do what we do, and that's get together and explore all this stuff. So, Z, before we part, any final thoughts you'd like to throw in here today?
Yeah, I guess, just real quick is, I've said it probably 3, 4 times before, but I am excited about this platform. I'm excited about starting this conversation and sharing ideas and experiences with the audience and our guest speakers and you. But most of all, I'm excited about having a conversation about life and the sacredness of life and the connectivity of life and how we express that in new thought and specifically in religious science, because I think it covers the whole spectrum of things seen and unseen and allow us to have a real intelligent conversation about life, how to preserve it, how to respect it, and how to elevate it to the next level of divineship, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir. Amen. And so it is. I am so on board. I don't. We could keep going down this line, but I think you guys get the idea. So,
Yes.
all right. Here's our last challenge. Please let your friends know. Share this video. Start a watch party. Let other people know that we're going to be here every Tuesday. Tuesdays at 2 Mountain Time. Revsy and myself getting together and talking about New Thought today. Until next time, we love you. Peace and blessings. Go forth and be love.
Peace and blessings, love, light, and insight.